Hello everybody, this is Paul from This Way to Prosperity, and I'm going to talk to you about the big ripoff that is found with driving for Uber, driving for Lyft, driving for Uber Eats, driving for DoorDash, any of the other food delivery services or the passenger delivery services. Basically, you're putting yourself in a big hole. You're not really making much money out of those services, and I'm going to explain here in this video why. So basically, all these services like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Uber Eats, whether you're delivering food or you're taking passengers from one location to another, you are expected to use your own vehicle to provide those services. Basically, you're using your own vehicle and you need to put your own gas in there. Anytime you need new tires, that's coming out of your pocket. Oil changes, any other service and maintenance on your cars, that's all coming out of your pocket. As well as your insurance costs. One big thing with insurance is if you're not declaring to your insurance company that you are driving for somebody like Uber, somebody like DoorDash, whether it be passengers or whether it be for food, you could run the risk that your insurance company denies you on a claim if you get into an accident. Even worse, if you have a passenger in there and they get injured, now they obviously can go after, now the companies like Lyft, Uber, or the other DoorDash, whatnot, they do have their own insurance and they can cover in case a passenger does get injured, and most likely that passenger is going to go after the company first, but they also have the ability to go after the driver as well. So your insurance might just turn around and say, hey, maybe if they cover you under this one incident, after that they're going to cancel you. It's going to go on your record. Any future insurance company is going to look at that and say, okay, you're driving for some of these services undeclared, basically not letting the insurance company know that you're driving for these services, which puts you in a higher risk category and you're not covered for that. So in the future, you'll get denied or your rates are going to double or triple. So that's one of the reasons why these companies are not your friend. They're not paying you well. You're sitting in a car for a number of hours a day as you're putting wear and tear on your body. You're stuck in that seating position. In order to make money, you need to keep delivering food. You need to keep taking drivers wherever they want to go, hoping that you get a good tip, trying to leave a good impression, and hoping you don't get that drunk passenger who's going to get violent with you, who's going to throw up in your car, leave you with a big mess to clean up. Or in the case of a food delivery app, you deliver the food, the person you deliver it, they lie, they file a report with the food delivery company saying, hey, you never delivered the food, refund my money. You end up losing that money. Now, all these apps do have a rating system, and the better you're rated, then the less likely you are to be impacted by a customer lying that, okay, you never delivered my food. But over time, it adds up. It's a lot of wasted time. Then you got to spend time dealing with those situations. Even if you have high rating and suddenly the situation turns south in your area, people are more likely to report missing or lost food just because they're looking for a free meal. Eventually, that's going to impact your numbers, and it's not going to make sense to work for any of these companies. So let's take a look at what are the costs that you are facing when you are driving for these companies. Basically, what are the costs to you? And we're not just looking at gas. Gas is one of those costs you'll see on a more frequent basis. If you are filling up regularly, yeah, you'll see that. But there are a lot of other costs that are associated with owning and driving a car. So let's take a look at those. So for individual driving costs, let's take a look at this page from AAA.com. This particular page is from 2016, so these numbers are a little outdated. Obviously, the costs are going to be much higher considering where we are after this recent bout of inflation. But this serves as an idea of what the breakdown is of your individual costs for driving for these companies. So you've got depreciation, that's basically the value of your car going down over time. The more you drive it, the more mileage you put on it, the lower the value it's going to go. You've got a yearly insurance cost. Typically, you're paying either on a 6-month basis or on a monthly basis, depending on your budget. You've got maintenance, basically your oil changes, if you need new tires, you need new brakes, adding and topping off fluids, your wiper fluids, radiator fluid and whatnot, license, registration, and other taxes associated with the car. The state is going to charge you those fees, whether it be to maintain your driver's license or just for the license plate itself. You're paying registration fees to the government. If you purchase a car with a loan, you've got finance charges at whatever the interest rate you're paying on that. If you bought it a couple of years in the past, you might have gotten low interest rates, so that it's not as great. But buying a car these days, you're looking at 7 to 8% or higher, depending on your credit, and that adds up over time on your monthly expenses. They note tires here separately, which I would include tires under the maintenance portion. So tires here, they estimate at $150 per year. Obviously, you're not replacing 4 tires every year, so they're doing an average cost over the lifetime of the car. So, and again, these are 2016 numbers, so these are a little low. So let's take a look at some more recent numbers. So these recent numbers are from also the AAA, but it's on the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. It's a government website. As you can see over here, the 2016 number, where that other article was, 57 cents per mile. So the average total cost they're putting for you there is 57 cents per mile. So that was 2016. Looking at 2022, the average cost is 72 cents per mile. So basically every mile you're driving, you're looking at paying 72 cents, whether it be on insurance, on maintenance, on gas, whatever. That's quite a bit basically. So you need to average out, you need to look at your mileage. It's hard to do a straight comparison when you're looking at, okay, it's 72 cents per mile, that's not a whole lot. 72 cents looks small in the grand scheme of things, but you need to look at it overall. How many miles are you driving per day? If you're driving 100 miles per day, so 72 cents per dollar times 100 miles, if that's what you're driving per day for these passenger delivery services or food delivery services, that's $72. So right off the bat, you drove 100 miles, your costs are $72 for that 100 miles. If you're not making at least $72 to cover that, you're basically working for free, and in fact, you're paying those companies to work for them. Now, if you get good tips, you get good customers, you pick up some good routes, you're able to get those customers frequently, and you're consistent in getting those good tips, then okay, that's great. But how many drivers are actually able to do that? Most drivers are not able to make that kind of money. They're in fact donating their time to these companies like Uber, like Lyft, like DoorDash. So ultimately what you're doing is these companies plan on offering self-driving vehicles. They're working either on their own or they're partnering with other companies to utilize self-driving vehicles. And their end goal is to get rid of all the human drivers, just have a robot driver, an AI drive for them. So basically with the way an AI works is you need to train it, you need to put data into it. So that data comes from, if you're familiar with ChatGPT, that comes from the internet, it comes from books, and those are just basically fed into the system. Now when it comes to a self-driving vehicle, they also need data as well too. They need to know the local routes, they need to know the frequent routes, they need to know what kind of traffic is going on there. Similarly, what Google does with their maps is they have vehicles drive around everywhere, take pictures, and use that for their Google Street View, for their Google Maps. So with these companies too, on your phone, there's an app in there that's tracking you. That's not only it's tracking you for purposes of letting you, okay, you picked up the food, customer who ordered the food knows, okay, you picked up the food. The estimated time to get to them is 20 minutes. They know they need to wait 20 minutes. That keeps you accountable. The customer is also happy. They know they're going to get fed in 20 minutes. The app is probably also taking account of traffic. A lot of these driving apps, whether it's your Apple Maps, your Google Maps, same thing, they take account of traffic to adjust for your estimated time of arrival. That same data that these companies are using for their delivery purposes are also being fed into their machines, their algorithms. And so that ultimately will help train the AIs of the future who are going to be self-driving. So basically, as a driver for these companies, you are training your eventual AI replacement. And after these companies replace you with an AI, guess what? They're not going to pay you anything. You're going to have to look to another job. So at this point in time, if you're working for these companies, you're training your replacement. I would argue it's going to be coming sooner rather than later. At the same time too, you're donating your time. You're not really getting much benefit out of this. It might look like you're making money in the short run, but over the long term, with your insurance costs, with your maintenance costs on your vehicle, and with other costs associated with owning and operating that vehicle, it's not a profitable endeavor. So already we have an article here that Uber begins offering rides in self-driving Waymo cars. Waymo is a company that offers self-driving vehicles. So in Phoenix, Arizona, customers ordering an Uber can now have the option to take their ride in a fully autonomous vehicle. Waymo, which is owned by Google, has the ability to use their self-driving cars in Phoenix, Arizona. Autonomous Uber rides will be serviced by Waymo vehicles, and rides will be in the same price as the traditional car rides offered by Uber. It notes customers who request a ride in Uber X, Uber Comfort Electric, or Uber Green within Waymo's operating territory could be paired with one of the autonomous cars. So users do have the ability to accept or reject having a self-driving car take them to where they need to go. So again, you're training your replacements in terms of the AI, and you're paying for that privilege as well too. These companies are the ones who are going to benefit, and they're certainly not going to share any profits with you down the line. So as I noted, these companies are really ripping off their drivers. They're not getting any benefit out of it. Here's a post on the DoorDash board on Reddit, and you can see here somebody saying you're worth more than this. DoorDash ends up paying like $0 to $7 an hour after tax and gas if you do full time. That's not a whole lot of money. And in my opinion, you're probably even doing negative dollars per hour. Basically, you are paying dollars per hour depending on your cost, depending on your expenses. Certain cities are very high cost of living, so these fees and whatever tips you might be getting off of this might not even be covering all your expenses, and you're in fact paying more than you really are earning. Their suggestion is to go get a regular job where you get paid regularly. You drive once, you go to that company, you go to that place of employment, stay there. You don't have to put any more wear and tear in your car or work for your 8 hours, whatnot, come back home, and then you're done. So not only are these apps ripoff for the drivers themselves, they're also the ripoff for the restaurants, and they're also ripoff for the consumers in general who are frequenting these restaurants. For example, in order to provide the services, these apps are charging money to these restaurants. They are adding fees to the restaurants, and with customers reporting missing food, there's even reports of drivers eating the food, tampering with the food. Even in cases of sealed food bags, customers are getting food that's been previously touched. Drivers getting hungry, this food smells great, hey, let me snack on some of this food, I'll deliver it to them. They won't know any better. The restaurants, as a result of that too, not just for inflation, because of the costs associated with this, if they don't offer their own delivery service or people are preferring to use this versus just going in and collecting the food themselves, they also have to raise prices to account for things like the higher fees from DoorDash, from Uber Eats, from Grubhub, because they charge quite a few fees, and most of those fees are going to the corporation themselves. They're not going to the driver. Even in some cases, the driver's tips 100% are not going to the driver. Some of the tips are being cut by these companies to account for credit card processing fees or any other fees associated with driving for these companies. Here's an article from eater.com. Who's paying for the great delivery wars? It's probably not Uber Eats, Postmates, or Grubhub, they're saying. Especially during the pandemic, then the increased demand for these delivery companies grew because people didn't want to go out, didn't want to travel. The article notes that delivery apps hurt these restaurants. There's processing fees, commissions, delivery fees, subscription fees, and some of these apps are actually offering delivery services for these restaurants which aren't even partnering or which aren't even participating in the DoorDash, Uber, whatnot. Their menu is uploaded to the system. They charge a markup on top of that, and then you're ordering directly through them. The restaurant really doesn't have any control. They're not directly interfacing with any of these food delivery companies. So here's an example of a Grubhub driver getting caught on camera eating customers' food. This happened at the actual restaurant where they were picking up the food. The owner of the restaurant noted that the driver ripped open the bag with his teeth and started eating food that was meant to be delivered by him to one of their customers. So the driver is sitting out in front of the restaurant there for at least a minute. There's a video over here on Twitter that you can find that the driver was doing that. Not great behavior. So if you're using these apps rather than going to the restaurant yourself and picking up the food, there is an additional risk there that the driver is taking sips from your drink, opening up your food, munching on some extra chips in there, munching on extra fries in there, putting their hands on your food. When you get it, it's not going to be in the original shape that if you went directly to the restaurant. So one advice to restaurants would be, a lot of times people don't want to get out of the car. They're not dressed to go to a restaurant, but they do want to get food. That's why drive-thrus are so incredibly popular, and drive-thrus can have long lines because people don't want to get out of the car. Restaurants can help with this trend by offering curbside delivery. Basically, the driver goes there, they either click an app on their phone that's saying they're here, or they send a text to the restaurant that they're here. Somebody from the restaurant can come out, hand them the food, verify who they are, here's your food, and away they go. They don't have to get out of the car. They don't have to worry that, okay, I have to get dressed up or I have to clean up a little bit because I want to go get some food. And that's a great way for restaurants to kind of do an end round these food delivery companies by offering that, letting customers know that you offer that. It's helpful for the consumers. So whether you are driving for these companies to take people from one point to another point, or you're driving to deliver food, the chances are that you are not really getting what you're worth. And you're putting wear and tear in your car, and you're also putting wear and tear in your body. All that adds up over time. So it might be a good thing to avoid working for those companies and find something else to earn a livelihood. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you drive for any of these companies? Would you or would you not if you don't? And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.